Hey everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for joining me today for a video response going out to my buddy Dan over at Old Sarge Collects. I'm going to try to keep the intro brief here because I think this video is going to go on long enough as it is. But Dan is one of the good guys and gals that you will meet in this hobby. I'm super grateful to call him a friend. And if you're not subscribed, you really should pause this video right now, go check the link below, and go give Dan a subscription and check out some of his amazing videos. A killer collection that spans, from the 1800s all the way up to modern day cards. Just like myself, a wide range of interests and a very unique perspective on the hobby. Super knowledgeable, especially about pre-war and trade cards and other things that I really don't know a lot about. So I am always learning from Dan. We talk now on almost a daily basis, and he is just an absolute solid guy in this hobby. So I cannot recommend Dan's channel enough. And he recently surpassed 300 subs. And for his video response, he wants to hear about our two favorite Major League franchises and why we're a fan of those franchises. And then also to have us show a little bit of cardboard to kind of help tell those stories. So my first team is going to be an obvious one. And then we'll do probably the less obvious team second to round out the VR. So we're going to start with the Boston Red Sox. As most of you who know me know, or if you've been by my channel, I live here in New England. I'm a Rhode Island resident, and I've always rooted for the local team, the Boston Red Sox. And a lot of that is just rooted in my upbringing and linked to family, as both of today's teams are going to be. And I've been a fan of them since I got into cards in the early 90s and the sport of baseball. And I still remember this day, my first trip as a kid to Fenway Park with my dad and my two brothers in tow, August of '93, to see the Red Sox take on the Rangers. This ticket stub here is priceless. I have always held on to it, and I'm really, really glad to have it. And like many of you who tell similar stories about your hometown ballparks, I remember so vividly the feelings and the sensations walking up out of the tunnel below the grandstands and seeing the splendor laid out before me that is Fenway Park, the green grass, the green monster, the Red Sox players tossing the ball around, the smell of hot dogs, the noise of the crowd. It just ingrained itself in my memory, and I've been a fan of the team ever since. I was actually a fan even before that, though, because I had gotten into baseball cards a couple of years prior. In the spring of 1990, I've told the story before, but 1990 Topps was the first set that I opened wax packs of as a 7-year-old in that spring and summer. And in an age before, everybody had the internet, that's how I learned about the game of baseball. That and books. I would read a ton of books. I was a voracious reader. And having gotten into cards, I really only had access to whatever my LCS had. We would go there on weekends, and my dad would buy my brothers and I a few packs. We'd come home, rip open the cards, trade them. But it was all, 1990 Topps, the set that had come out that summer. Maybe we'd dip back into 89 Topps or 87. But I didn't really have any vintage cards. And that all changed on one Saturday in the early 90s, and I still remember this vividly as well. My dad took my brothers and I to an antique store in Putnam, Connecticut. It's actually still there to this day. And on the lower floor, they had a little wooden box full of 1950s Bowman Commons. And this, to me, these were incredible. I mean, I had never seen cards this old. I'd seen photos of cards this old in books, but I'd never seen them in hand. And my dad told me I could pick out 2 or 3 cards from that box. I think they were $3 a piece or 3 for $10, something like that. And the first vintage, truly vintage baseball card that I ever owned was the 1950 Bowman Maurice McDermott. And I still remember on the ride home reading the back of this card and my dad and I joking about how he was referred to as String Bean Maury in the first sentence on the right up there from Bowman. And my dad, who thankfully is still with me to this day, he's now 76 years old, and he still remembers that day as well, and still jokes with me about String Bean McDermott. And so this developed my love for vintage cards, and of course, Red Sox. I had to pick up the Red Sox that were in that box. Even though I didn't know the players, I knew the team, and it was just so cool to have something in hand as a kid that was this old. And the other 2 cards that I grabbed were from 52 Bowman, and it was this very Fred Hatfield card right here, and then Harry Brecheen of the Cardinals, because they only had 2 Red Sox cards in the box. So I defaulted to Harry Brecheen for my third card. And growing up, I kept this Fred Hatfield and the Harry Brasheen side by side in a single screw down case because I just didn't know any better about collecting my cards. And that screw down case with those two 52 Bowmans, that sat out on my childhood bookshelf or desk throughout much of my youth and kind of further hammered home my love of the Red Sox. And then this is a little bit of a sad story. It's something I don't talk about often, but the other card that I wanted to use to tie to my Red Sox fandom is my younger brother, Tom, who's no longer with us. And he and I shared a bond over baseball and collecting cards and the Red Sox specifically. And one of the great memories that I have, we would talk every day or at least text every day. And in 2018, when the Red Sox were in the World Series against the Dodgers, I was on a work trip down in New Jersey, opening up a data center down there. And I was living out of a hotel room, obviously, in the evenings. And some of the games were on the West Coast. And I would stay up late in my hotel room watching the game and just texting back and forth with my brother every time there was a big highlight or the Red Sox scored. And I've always thought of this card when it comes to that World Series. This depicts the moment after the final out where catcher Christian Vasquez is jumping into the arms of Chris Sale. And, sadly, it's not something I've really talked about, I don't think, on the channel ever. Maybe a couple of my close hobby buddies are aware of this, but that was really the last baseball memory that I had with my brother. That World Series wrapped up on Sunday. I think it was October 28th on that Sunday, and talked to my brother throughout the week. And sadly, later on, the very week after that World Series championship, he passed away unexpectedly at just 32 years old. And I still miss him tremendously. I think about him every day, and he's one of the many reasons that I'm anchored in this hobby. And I just have a ton of really good memories of talking sports with him, tracking the Red Sox, and especially enjoying that last World Series championship together as brothers. It's been a tough 5 years since he's been gone, but interacting with all of you and getting to know everybody in this great community has kind of bred new life in my enjoyment of the hobby and added to my experience. And I certainly will always miss my brother. And like I said, I think of him every single day. And I'm really glad that we got to enjoy one more World Series championship together before he left us at an early age. So that is going to be the wrap on why I'm a Red Sox fan. I wouldn't say I follow the team as rabidly today as I did for all those years. I still try to go to a game or two at Fenway every summer. And in fact, kind of coming around full circle, I got my young nephew up to his first ever game at Fenway Park. My wife and I took him and my sister up last summer. He's a Little League player, and it was really great to see that same look of amazement on his eyes when he got to come out and see Fenway Park and the Red Sox play in person for the first time ever. So, life goes on, new generation of sports fans in my family, and it's kind of cool to see everything come full circle all around the local team, the Boston Red Sox. So with that being said, I'm going to clear the deck here. Hang tight 1 second, and we'll come back with the second part of this VR on my other favorite franchise, and it's probably not who you would expect. So hang tight. All right, and the Mickey Mantle card in the backdrop is going to give it away here. But the second team that I chose, and my other favorite franchise in Major League history, I'm going with the New York Yankees. I came close to choosing the Brooklyn Dodgers here, but I thought the Yankees might be fun. And yes, I am a walking contradiction. I am that rare Red Sox fan who does not despise the Yankees. In fact, I admire them so much, and I love the rivalry that's developed over the 100+ years now between these two teams that live in my region. And I've been a Yankees fan since probably about the same time I was a Red Sox fan, or shortly thereafter. I mentioned in the first part of the video, the way that I learned about the sport of baseball growing up is I was a big reader. I would read books and check the box scores every day in the newspaper, read whatever articles I could get my hands on. And I had a whole library of sports books, regular novels, but also coffee table books with great photographs. And, obviously the New York Yankees are the most successful franchise in the history of baseball in terms of championships and star players. And so I grew up, even though I was a Red Sox fan living in New England, the team wasn't very good when I was watching them. And they hadn't been very good in a long time. They hadn't won a championship since, many decades before I was ever born. And so the players that I was reading about having the most success and being sort of these legends of baseball, they were the New York Yankees, the Mickey Mantles, the Joe DiMaggios, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. When you're a little kid, those are kind of some of the heroes that you're drawn to, or at least I was, as you're reading about the sport of baseball. So I didn't grow up despising the Yankees. I loved the Yankees. And really, my love for the Yankees kind of culminated in a trip that I took in 6th grade with my dad. And I just want to talk about it quickly. So I was a really good student in grade school, all the way through 8th grade. Drifted off the rails a little bit in high school and college, but that's a story for another day. But up through 8th grade, I took school incredibly seriously. And in the 6th grade, I had one of the best teachers I've ever had, an incredibly motivating guy. His name was Mr. Pyers. And he had a promotion set up for all of us in the 6th grade class. When you would do something good in his classroom or get a high test score or volunteer for something, he would hand out these Pyers bucks. And they were basically paper like Monopoly dollars, sort of, with his face on the front. And they had different denominations. Maybe if you did your homework correctly, you got a $1 Pyers buck. But if you really stepped up above and beyond, you might have got a $10 bill or a $20 Pyers buck. And then what he would do is all the students would save up all their Pyers bucks. And on the last day of school, he had an auction where he had all kinds of prizes that he'd come up with. And you could use your Pyers bucks to bid on items. And this was a great way to motivate me as a student. The primary reason being sort of the grand prize that everybody was drooling over when he announced this at the beginning of the year. He gave away a pair of tickets to a Red Sox-Yankees game at Yankee Stadium for the summer of 1994 after we graduated 6th grade. And I knew from the moment I heard about that prize that I was going to do everything I could that entire school year to be a good student and accumulate Pyers bucks so I could take my shot at getting those Yankees tickets at the end of the year. And I won, actually. I'm not putting up this up here to brag. This is just hilarious that I still have it. I even went so far as to win the math tournament in 6th grade for my class, which I think got me like $100 in Pyers bucks. So I would study my multiplication and division tables like religiously every night. Won that tournament. So Mr. Pyers, great job as a teacher, motivating your students and using something that they're interested in to get them passionate about learning. I've never forgotten that. And as I'm sure you could assume the story's going this way, I was able to save up enough Pyers bucks that year to outbid all of my classmates. And I took home the pair of tickets to see the Red Sox take on the Yankees at Old Yankee Stadium in the summer of 1994. And of course, I asked my dad if he would be the one willing to go with me. He actually worked for a company at the time that had like some kind of rental condos you could make use of right in downtown New York City. And so we made a road trip out of it. My dad and I headed into the city. We took the train in. We had a rental place for 2 or 3 nights. We saw all the sights, the Empire State Building and Rockefeller Center. And, as somebody who is still a young kid at this point and a little bit naive, I grew up in the middle of the woods, middle of nowhere. New York City itself as a city was mind-blowing to me. I think that was my first trip in that I'd ever taken. And seeing a city on that magnitude at that age just left an indelible impression in my mind. And I've always been a fan of New York City ever since. I've been back countless times, dozens and dozens and dozens of times over the years. I've taken my wife there plenty of times. We've seen ball games and plays and concerts. And I love the melting pot and the hub of activity that is New York City. No disrespect to Boston. I'm a Red Sox fan as well, but I absolutely love that city and that team. And that road trip that summer is one of the best moments of my childhood. It was so rewarding to me knowing that I had done all the work myself to save up that money and win those tickets, and then to have that great bonding experience and weekend there with my dad. It was just something that I will never forget, and I will look back fondly on for the rest of my entire life. We sat in the left field bleachers. I'm really honored that I can say that I saw the old Yankee Stadium, which is something not all ball players or not all fans can say, I should say. But I got to see the original Yankee Stadium, and I still remember just sitting there mystified, thinking to myself, this is the same place where Babe Ruth was hitting home runs and Lou Gehrig, set his consecutive games played streak. I mean, just incredible stuff. It just felt so historic being able to sit, within the confines of that stadium. Definitely learned some new language as a sixth grader sitting in the bleachers in New York with the Red Sox in town. But I was, you can call me out for this if you want, but I would say, smart enough to wear a Yankees hat around New York City that weekend into the game rather than my traditional Red Sox hat. So that experience, I was already into the Yankees prior to that, and I've told this story before too, especially from the 1991 Topps Archives release, which gave me, as a young collector, a little bit of exposure in an indirect way to the 1953 Topps set, and developed my love for the 53 mantle, which is why I still have this Archives mantle to this day. This is my actual childhood copy, survived all these years. And this is the card that I chose to show, the Yankees being my second favorite franchise. But really, it was about, just the greats of the game, learning about the Yankees and all of their success as a team. And then it was really cemented by that road trip in the summer of 1994 with my dad to the great city of New York. So, Dan, that's my VR. I'm going to cut it off here before I go on any longer. But really, to sum it all up, the reason these are my two favorite teams are really just the ties to my family and my memories and my youth. And I know that's something that you can appreciate as well with your experiences with Uncle Mike and the Dodgers and other teams that you've talked about. And for me, that's what it all goes back to. So I hope this works for the VR. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep on being awesome and keep up the great work with your channel. You are going to be at 400 and then 1,000 subs in no time with the way you do your amazing content and with how cool your collection is. So keep it up. And to everybody else, I appreciate you stopping by for this somewhat lengthy VR. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back soon with some more sports card content. Till then, take care and enjoy the hobby, everybody. See ya.